Welcome. On this month's video, we'll be talking about being friends with bands, musicians, and artists. Some of the ups, some of the downs. I'll be using my most recent cover of Radiohead's Creep as an example. More on that in a moment. Let's take a look at a clip.
And I want a perfect body, and I want a perfect soul. Oh, but I'm a creep, and I'm a weirdo, oh, and she
In my video, I dedicated this song to my friends Dani and Jesse, and given the strong stalker vibes of the lyrics, this may seem like a little bit of a strange choice.
I know, but I get it though. I understand it. I've listened to it several times, and it still always gets me because I still remember you sitting on the floor in several of the places we've lived, just playing it.
You have always asked me for that song.
I have.
So that is why I dedicated the cover to Jesse and Dani. I've known them since my earliest tours in 2007, 2008, thereabouts. Jesse played bass on the track that I'm releasing next month. Dani doesn't really play any instruments. So how did they get into music?
I always enjoyed music.
I love playing music. Man, I've always been playing music.
You have. I have music in my family. My uncle played in several bands. He always let me tag along when I was little.
My grandfather bought me my first guitar. My dad built me a music room and I played keys. I've always had the bug.
And then I met a boy and got married. I'm not that musical.
So Jesse played in bands.
Never really quit any bands. Maybe
No.
one. No. Never really quit a band. I feel like I'm a pretty good chameleon. I really want to compliment whoever I'm playing with.
And I think that's why it's always been in a band.
I'm a bass player. That's the moneymaker.
And Dani and him put on shows and made friends with bands.
So I just went into the other side of things. Like we started doing shows. We've had bands write albums in our house. Our kids have a great taste in music because of all the people we've surrounded ourselves with. I still actually am connected with several of the bands that we helped in different places, including you.
They know a lot of musicians and a lot of bands. So what are the fun parts about being friends with bands and musicians?
One, I get that relationship that these people are doing what they love and I get to be a part of it. I get to hear it, or I get to see it. Hearing stories of where they've been. I think those are some of my favorite things.
Band life is weird. This last weekend, my family and I went up to Kansas City, and while I was there, I was able to catch up with my friends Nate and Tessa. We used to play shows together when they were a folk punk duo.
We are Destroy, Nate Allen.
In recent years, Nate has also been performing as Good Saint Nathanael.
call it disruptive, I'd say I'm lucky. I'd ruptured my internal affair.
They were kind enough to share a bit about the oddities of tour life.
Probably the biggest just practical challenge is you never know what's going to happen. You never know what factors you have to consider on a given night. Mm-hmm. For us, we play in a lot of different music scenes, so they have different rules and different expectations.
Or even you could be playing the same town, the same venue, with the same promoter, and it be just a completely different kind of night than it was the last time you played that same situation.
When I sat down with their tour manager and it was time to pay out to the tour manager, he looked at me and he goes, "Are you sure you can do this?" Because they were having such a hard time with being able to get venues to pay what was asked for.
I mean, I think just a lot of people who are musicians or drawn to that lifestyle or drawn to that scene tend to be fairly unhealthy people. And so there can be a lot of drama, or just people who are stunted in certain ways. Then if there's substance use involved, then that's even worse.
As I think about my early touring years, sometimes it really makes me cringe. How I behaved, how selfish I was, and I had it together more than some. But honestly, I also think that's just part of being young. Being selfish and inconsiderate, trying to fit in, making mistakes are pretty universal in my opinion.
If there was anything I would change, I would have spent more time with my kids and less time
Worrying about,
because doing so much of the band stuff.
yeah.
Maybe trying to find a better balance, because I honestly don't feel like we were balanced well.
When we got married and had kids, I was still trying to find balance.
You trying to find yourself.
I was right there.
Still, some of this is so embarrassing.
Oh, but I'm a creep, and I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here when I don't belong here?
So given this particular lifestyle, what does it take to be friends with bands?
Feeding them dinner, making sure they have clean clothes if they need it, and you don't have to allow them to run over you. And that was something I had to learn. I can set boundaries and expectations, but also allowing them to be who they are. I think being genuine and authentic and real, it's not just about helping a band or booking a band or being in the music, whatever you want to call it. It's also about building relationships and trying to keep those relationships. And
You have to have a working water heater.
As we grow older, hopefully we become a little bit more multidimensional and maybe a little more considerate.
instead of that being, oh, I'm the band mom, it's more, oh, we're friends.
Yeah.
We have a relationship. So we talk about all of life. So it's one of those things that not just keeping up because just for the sake of keeping up, but because there's care there.
It's a strange scene, but I have to say, most of my lifelong closest friendships come from touring, and I am very grateful.
I feel like the relationships, like the shared experience you get with somebody if you've been on tour with them or played a couple shows, like I heard it likened once that like you actually have only spent like 12 hours with somebody, but that 12 hours was really intense and spread out over 4 years, and you feel like you have a lifetime of shared experience. And so I think like when I look at a friend that comes through and sits on my couch, I'm like, hey, we've got a ton of history, but it's in a very unique way. So there's this bond we can have over something that I think is really cool.
I want to thank Jesse and Dani for talking to me. We covered so many more topics and stories in our conversation, and it just didn't make it into this video. All my love. Thanks also to Tessa and Nate for chatting. They are great people, and you need to check out their music. I'm going to close with 2 out-of-context clips that I just really enjoyed. I'll see you soon.
I'm so glad you can edit this. Dear Lord Jesus.
See what happens when you start thinking about ska stuff? Ruins everything.
Yeah, I don't